The Slav defense has a somewhat shorter history than the Queen's Gambit. It was probably aimed as an improved form of the Queen's Gambit because, as Rudolf Spielmann noticed, against d4 it's not easy for black to develop both his bishops actively. I mean, you either clear the path for one of them and then you cut off the other's development, or as in the Slav defense, you leave the diagonal of this bishop open, but then you'll have some delay in developing the king's bishop. But actually, the Slav opening, or the Czech opening as it was called almost 100 years ago, aims to achieve both goals, to develop both bishops. Black will have to make a concession though. Now bishop f5 is not so good because the queen b3 or c takes d5 followed by queen b3. So he has to give up the center. And after a4, preventing b5, black already can choose the way how to develop his bishops. We can see there are two main things. First of all, there is this square which white has given up. Should black install the knight there or the bishop? That's an open question. Usually the bishop goes there. And also this bishop, where should it go? To f5 or to g4, and in which moment? So in this position, the oldest and even now the most popular move is bishop f5. This is the starting point of our DVD, but we also examine bishop g4, knight a6 followed by bishop g4 a little bit later, and even the slightly paradoxical e6, which actually obstructs the Slav bishop, transposing to some sort of Queen's Gambit accepted. So since bishop f5 is the main line, basically it's a big part of these recordings are dedicated to it. Let's start with it. So white occupies, white retrieves the pawn, while black develops his pieces freely, and you can see that there is some latent pressure on the white center. e4 is not so easy to achieve because the c3 knight is under pressure. Black threatens to exchange it at the right moment. So white can be satisfied for the first part of the game. He has a potential advantage in the center. If he gets e4, he will have a space advantage. But at the same time, until he does that, his c1 bishop will be a little bit passive. Black can also be content, even though the game started as a classical game d4 d5. It now has more of a character of the Grunfeld, let's say, where black gives away the center. It's piece pressure. It's actually, it starts like a classical opening and it becomes a hyper-modern opening. This is what is so interesting in the Slav. White has two main moves here. He can either start chasing the bishop with knight h4. I used to play this a quarter of a century ago, but somehow now I don't feel so much inclined to play it. It's a good move. It gets the bishop's pair, but I prefer to hurry up with the development. So the main problem is to develop this bishop. So we need to carry out e4. So this is the starting point of the bishop f5 system. Let us speak about some general details which we'll have to keep in mind all the time. black needs to use this time which white still employs in gaining space for breaking up the center with either c5 or e5. Not always these pawn breaks are good for him. For instance, against e5, sometimes the simple exchange of pawns would leave white with mobile pawn majority on the king side, with good attacking chances. And against both c5 or e5, d5 has to be permanently taken into account, creating a passed pawn, gaining more space. It's also the question what about the queen's side. What is the situation on the queen side? It may seem that black can stabilize the queen side with a5, which would practically outrule the minority's attack on this wing. But a5 is a double-edged move. First of all, if many pieces get exchanged, then this pawn may become weak. Imagine a position with a white knight on c4. Then these squares would be under serious pressure. Besides, if black plays a5, then c5 does not look such an appealing move. It would weaken this square. So many times black considers it better to block the queen side with the queen, even though this is not so stable actually. For white, it would be nice to play a5 at some moment. We'll see that many times he can even sacrifice a pawn this way, and the other way, the fighting against the blockade would be knight a2, followed by b4 or a5. Of course, knight a2 is a move which should not be played too hurriedly, because if white is not well developed, taking the knight far from the center would just help black getting counterplay. And there's another aspect. Well, this bishop, as usual in the Slav, its situation is also not so clear. It looks like an active piece, but if white manages to play something like e4 and f3, then the bishop would be black would be practically a piece down for practical reasons. I mean, especially if play opens on the other wing, this bishop would not count. Many times this bishop is exchanged for this knight, but it makes a difference if like this, or if on g6, because this latter would change the structure. H takes g6. Sometimes f takes g6 is played under special circumstances, and statically it may seem that h takes g6 strengthens black's control in the center. Sometimes this pawn could advance without weakening the king side, but we'll see that double pawns also offer white some chances of playing for an attack on the h file. So these are more or less the elements, the general elements, and now we will have to start investigating the concrete lines. There are many lines, and what makes the Slav so good to play over the board is the fact that for neither side, it's impossible for either side to say, well, play goes like this. I mean, you have to do this, this, and this, and you are okay. No, there are small nuances which you have to feel. So we'll see a big number of concrete lines where some small detail changes everything, the plan, the evaluation. And also, you cannot really expect to refute the Slav. You cannot expect it to get a big advantage out from the Slav if black plays properly. White should get a playable position, maybe close to equality, but a position where he has something to play for, more space or mobile pawn majority. I mean, he should have the upper hand, but not so obviously. Like in hypermodern openings, for instance, it's okay, clear. in the Grünfeld or in the King's Indian, you get some space advantage. It's yours, and well, at least statically speaking, you can think you are better. But in the Slav, there are small nuances, and you also have to be ready combining strategic thinking with concrete and tactical play. So let's start checking the lines.